Ascension, and it's really based on my last collection of poetry, which is called Ascension. And this was a long-term work that poems that I've been working on over a long period of time. And I've always been inspired by the place I'm from. I'm from Ascension Parish, Guys, Louisiana, which is an Ascension Parish. And I always felt like that word, it's such a beautiful word. And since I'm from there, I should do something with the word. And when I started out working with the concept of ascension, I was working more with place, but then I realized that ascension has a deeper meaning, the concept of rising up, ascending, or the concept of falling down and getting back up. So all of that is in the book. And then when I started working on the show for this year, I thought, well, maybe I should just go with that theme, especially after the flood situation. My area, we are our land is very low, so over the years we experienced a lot of floods. And our first house, well, the second house we had was on a slab, and every rain was a flood. And gradually the baseboards began to curl up, and my mom was putting everything on cement blocks. Finally, we just left everything on the cement blocks, and eventually we had to get rid of the house because it was just too much mold and too much destruction. So I was so familiar with that, and that's a part of a lot of the poems in the book. And so in working with the show, I wanted to work with Ascension, and then I was thinking about the flood, and so the paintings became pre-flood and post-flood paintings. So, and all of them based on the concept of ascension, the place, ascension to the word, ascension to feeling, and so forth. So, in talking about the flood, I was a bit concerned because I know a lot of people, lost everything, and I didn't want to focus on the negative of the flood, but yet the flood is a very negative experience. But I also wanted to in my work, I wanted to talk about the amazement of water, the power of water, which I find, both beautiful and frightening. And so that sort of informed where I was going with the images in the paintings. Also, I've always had this problem with being traditional. I have a tendency to need to go beyond borders, and so I have a tendency to not want to stay in a rectangular or square format. I have to, get out, get out this way, get out that way. And so that's part of the reasons why a lot of the paintings you see that I'm moving away from the standard traditional shape of a canvas and painting, because I need to break out of the canvas. And that's just me personally. It's I've always been a rebellious person, so it's just kind of like, okay, I got to rebel here. And so that's how that happened. And also, just challenging myself, how can I find a way to make this thing work? How do I make this frame? Because I'm working basically with frame, and I want the frame because I'm always thinking of something trying to get out of the frame. I'm here, but I need to get out of here. And so that was always a challenge for me, that the frame is there, but the items want to get out. When you think of a flood, everything is being kicked out or pushed out. And so that same theme is happening here, that things are flowing out of the frame as things were flowing out of people's homes. So this is called Attack on Red Stick. And the concept of peaceful, quiet, and then the totally unexpected. And so that's kind of where, and then the unexpected, of course, pushing everything out of what is peaceful, normal, and calm, which is the rectangular frame. Okay, and so in this one, it's focused on, I did a whole series, I have a whole series where I work with clothing, which you saw, I think, in my last show. I use clothing as a part of the canvas or a part of the theme or the work. And this one actually has a blouse in it. This is actually parts of a blouse. And the blouse itself reminded me of water, so I just sort of use that as a starting point to show this thing being twisted and turned by the waters from the storm, waters from the flood, and so creating a sense of movement. And here I was working with, again, the concept of the water, and this one is called Just Passing Through. This is actually 10, I think it's roof 10 that they used to put in the ceiling of a house, but it was rusty. And I collected as much of this as I could, and I think it was Dr. Reddy who gave me these 10 pieces. He was always collecting things for me to make art with. So I have had a lot of them, and I thought, well, let me see how can I incorporate the 10 into the format of the painting. And the 10, when I had it down, my intention was just to have these panels here, here, and here. But when I worked with it, the 10 actually made its own shape, so it became like a building, you know. And I saw that later after I put it together. It's like, oh, goody, you know. And so the water, you know, moving through. So I have this repeated theme in the flood pieces of the waves. And what I did was I used a large canvas and I created a whole canvas of waves. And then I cut the waves up and put them in different paintings. So that's why you see the wave moving through everything. Okay, and the pre-flood paintings, I was working again with the concept of Ascension. You know, what is life like there? What is life like in my town? My world. So that's where I tried to capture as much details about place in many of the paintings, and then in some of the paintings I wanted to capture in the post-flood experience. What do people do? Where do you go? So I had the ones about shelter, about people, helping you to find shelter and assisting you in having shelter. And so it was that was my whole concept of taking my place of origin and then exploring that to a larger level and trying to help myself to understand the place, help myself to understand flood. The concept of the flood. Is there beauty in the flood, and is there wonder in it? And what do you do with the devastation? How do you talk about it, and how do you preserve it in a sense of documentation? So in a sense, this is documenting something that happened in our culture, in our lives. And when you talk to people about it, it's hard because it's very difficult to talk about. So my way of talking about it is to say, it was like this. This was what we were experiencing. So that was the path I was going in with the work.
That piece there in the middle, did you say that's a mixture of collage and painting?
Yeah.
Because I could make it out.
Yeah, see, this is actually a shirt, part of a shirt. The ones with the circles in it, that's a shirt. You can see the buttons right here. This is a part of a nightgown. And the waves itself are collaged in as well. And so then I come back and, work into it.
Now, you don't use collage to create a sense of interference. The collage flows right in with the painting.
Right.
It's very well disguised.
Thank you.
That's more like a European idea. You don't create a disjointed environment, but it has a nice totality to it.
Thank you.
Also, the fact that you didn't break the format there still makes a very powerful expression in the painting to not release, let the format hold that energy together, and it makes an even more powerful statement, I think.
Anyone else?
Yes, Malaika. By spending part of the time now in Barbados, I think you spent several times a year in Barbados. Can you sense any kind of influence that may get in your works from what you've seen there?
Well, water. A lot of water. Now, when I was in Barbados, I didn't, I don't have a space to work, so I was doing everything, little sketches, for the show, what I wanted to be in the show. And this was post-flood, so I was thinking about, the effect of the flood, and how can I talk about it. And so it all sort of came together, but I don't know how much that will, affect I've done some paintings about it, which I kept, because it didn't fit the theme, but I don't know how far I will go with it. It's hard to say right now. But it has helped affect me in terms of my writing, because I have done a lot of poetry about the place.
Also, how is the art scene there?
It's very tourist centered. There's a lot of focus on tourist art because, of course, the whole economy is tourist based, and so you get a lot of people coming in from the cruise ships, and so the galleries tend to lean towards art that will reflect the island and ships and that sort of thing. But there are, I saw a few galleries that were more international. But I would say, and art sales, of course, is really dependent more on tourism than on the local people. Yes, because the locals tend to buy more, I would say, more craft type pieces, like, for instance, ceramics, small ceramic pieces, that sort of thing. And basically, I'm very happy with where I'm going with the work. And I don't know, it's like you do all this and then you don't know where you're going to go next, but that's always a challenge, because I enjoy being challenged in terms of not knowing ahead of time what's going to happen. It's kind of like April was saying, you're sort of experimenting as you go, you're playing as you go. I mean, the joy of making art is that it's you're playing, it's like, next, you're playing a game with yourself, and the game is so exciting because you don't know where it's going to take you, and that's what pushes you forward. That's what makes you continue to make the art, because then you're thinking, what's going to happen? What's this going to look like? And then when you finally get it, completed, and you look at it, you're thinking, wow. But it's never totally complete until you get it on a wall like this, like in a gallery or a white wall, because usually most people, like myself, the studio is crammed and you don't have a wall, or it's sort of leaning against the wall and you don't feel the full impact of the painting. Like, for instance, this one, I seldom see it. This is the first time I've seen it on a wall, per se. I've always seen it leaning against the wall, or when I was working on it. So the impact and the wonder and the joy of that sense of completion when the work is on display. So having this show is as much for me as it is for you. So I'm having the experience of seeing the art in a separate space, and seeing people see the art is also a wonderful experience for me. Seeing how people react to the art, that's because I don't know if they're going to see what I saw, or if they even know what I'm talking about. And so you're sort of standing back and watching it. They get it, or they see it, or maybe and that's good, because what it may mean one thing to me, and it may mean a totally different thing to the other person, and that's very good, because then each person gets their own experience from the painting. And that's the purpose of art, that it continues to inspire. It doesn't have to inspire the way it inspired me, but it should inspire in some way the people who look at it, the people who enjoy it, or the people who purchase it, that it will always give them something to marvel or be excited about. Like, for instance, someone told me they had a painting of mine. He said, oh, every morning I get up and there it is, it makes me feel good. So that's art. Art does that. And so I hope you will all continue to enjoy and appreciate what we do. Thank you.